there's the, couple of comments about the environmental impact assessment and the traffic study. Those were submitted on the previous submittal back in, 8 years ago when this was in front of the board. I don't know if that's acceptable or what we should do about that at this time. It's a 3-lot subdivision. The question is a traffic study required at all, or?
That's not gonna impact.
Well,
Salem Street,
it
no.
would be Salem Street, and there's so much out there. What we find on most traffic studies is it is hardly a dent, and it will be hardly anything whatsoever at all on that, and
Okay.
I would pass on that. That's a great job, by the way, doing traffic studies.
Oh, I don't want that job.
It's everything we've ever done over the years, no matter where it's been. I mean, it's, something new is negligible, it seems, and on Salem Street with all the traffic going down there, the other one's 97 and 113. Boom.
Okay. So I think that's all I had, unless you wanted to dig into the list some more. I don't know if you want to be doing that.
No, what we're going to do is, we've got the memorandum here from your company, and we'll accept this and vote on it to adhere to all the corrections with Camet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we have the land disturbance, and we also have the definitive, right?
Yes, we have definitive and land disturbance, so.
Does he have any comment on this before that?
Yep.
Do you have any more, any comment on this one, before you go into the land disturbance?
Okay, yeah, we reviewed for subdivision compliance and for the land disturbance application. We found some inconsistencies in the plans, and I think I understand how it happened, and we pointed that out. So as far as the definitive subdivision goes, you know, I'm happy to work out anything we need to work out with the applicant. You know, it's just a matter of making everything consistent and so forth. Some of the other subject matters about waivers and the likes, I think you need to rule, if the traffic study and the environmental assessment are not required, then that's okay, but if they require a waiver, then you probably want to act on those, you know, as part of your decision-making process.
Well, they can put that in writing to us and we can vote on it. That's the easy way out of that.
Okay, so we'll add those as waivers?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the land disturbance application, which is the next item, is that?
Yes.
So, again, we had some comments, very general. You know, I'm happy to work out those issues as well with their soil evaluation, the soil erosion control consultant. Some of those comments relate to drainage, so they're kind of twined, but nothing is so major that we can't work something out.
Okay. Yeah, we like to see these things get down to just a few items. Seems like there's an awful lot here, and that's, you know, the engineers need to get together at this point and then come back to us with a shorter list. Hopefully no list.
Yep,
Okay?
that's our objective, sure.
All right, okay.
All right.
So go get your money's worth.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So we should vote to accept the,
Okay, hold on 1 minute.
and I would imagine approve the plan with the corrections.
We have a plan, Rob, is there?
No, we already got the plans before.
Okay. All right, so at this point, you want to have the planning board accept the report, the 2 reports from Camet Engineering. So we want to vote to do that. And we also want to vote the corrections that we received on the previous plan filed.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so I'll make that motion. I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, I haven't received any corrections as of yet, so.
On the plan?
Yeah, I think the best course of action is to leave the definitive subdivision plan open, because anything new coming in, you can't review once you close it.
Okay, all right. So I'd like to cancel that motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Land disturbance, I believe we can conditionally approve.
Let me just write this down first.
I have a question. In the last 8 years, so the environmental impact study, 8 years ago it was completed. Do you feel as if the requirements have changed within the last 8 years? Or that the new design is gonna affect that?
Well, the new design is less dense,
Okay,
so any negative impacts would certainly be lessened. But the way I think it's designed is, they've laid it out so that, the houses are gonna be fairly far apart. It's gonna be a less dense project, shorter roadway, less stormwater impacts. So I can't see anything that would cause a great concern. You're not gonna have as much traffic, stormwater is improved, all those kinds of things.
okay.
So, even if it were required, I would say that the previous document is probably sufficient.
All right, thank you.
So we just want to, I'll make another motion, and that would be to accept Camet Engineering's definitive subdivision review of December 30th, 2014, and their review of lab disturbance application dated December 30th, 2014. And I need a second, and I need a vote.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion carries. All right. All right, is that it for that?
Just gotta accept Kravchuk is next.
Okay, well, we gotta, that's gotta be number, what,
Yep.
3? Okay.
So what's the next, I don't understand, what's the next move on the definitive?
Yeah.
They'll be back with comments relative to both documents. Hopefully, what happens is, these things get smaller. And at that point, yes, we're gonna have to go over it with the engineer, up or down on certain things, and if,
No, what are the items, though? Just the, street lighting, right?
And the biggest issue right now is the stormwater design.
Oh, they haven't.
We found some inconsistencies between the plan and the model, so those just need to get corrected, and that's probably an oversimplification, because you get into the nuances of the stormwater management.
Oh, where he moved it to, into that cul-de-sac area?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So we had some questions about groundwater conditions, and Mr. Green was good enough to bring a backhoe out there. I observed some test pits on Monday, answered some questions, and had some more raised, and so it's just gonna be a little bit of a back and forth between ourselves and the engineer to iron those issues out. But, the lighting and comments from the other town departments, those are fairly
Yeah.
benign at this point, I would suggest. So we will have a little bit of a back and forth, but I think we're a lot closer on the land disturbance application.
I forgot they changed that, retention.
okay, we're all done with this?
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna move on to Crabchuck Drive at this point, and the land disturbance application there and comments. Is anyone here from representing Crabchuck? No one?
No.
Okay.
All we have is, for the land disturbance, is what you submitted, and everything just needs to be complied with on that.
Right, the last meeting, it was conditionally approved by the board, as you know. We received some additional information back, and still a couple of housekeeping items, in my opinion, before we can totally sign off on it, but,
Yep.
I had expected something as late as today, to see if we could just polish it off to a couple of more items, but
All right, so we can make a
I'll keep the board apprised as to when I receive it and what the outcome is.
motion to accept it with the corrections noted by Cameron Engineer.
Okay.
We have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Next one's what has to do.
Yeah, I gotta read it.
Oh, look, I can,
Center Street, and you had Angelini down.
oh, yeah, he's not coming in.
Okay.
The Cameron Engineering, the Center Street project with Angelini and the land, that's not ready yet. Do you know anything about that?
No,
No, not yet.
not yet.
I guess that's probably Woody's domain.
Okay, all
I
right,
wasn't
yeah.
even aware that
He had briefed me, and he wasn't sure whether it was gonna be ready tonight or not, so.
Is this the water
Yes,
application? Oh,
yes.
okay. Yeah, I spoke with him today in the office and didn't even mention it, so.
All right, next on the agenda is SD off of Uptack.
Any coyotes around?
Yeah, watch out.
News truck out there?
Did you bring a gun?
Taylor, I got an email from GZA, and Peter Williams can't make it tonight.
He copied us on.
Oh, boy. So that's the new budget.
We have a sign in street for the residents, we should have that.
Put it in the back? Push it to the-
Yeah, that, whoever's here for that, we should keep track.
Everybody sign in.
This is Estes here.
No, that's us, right? You don't have that. You don't have this one, do you? The one that,
I have everything.
this?
You put previous subdivision?
No, I
Yep.
guess.
No, my one, I can quick throw it
No,
out.
that's all right. What's this one?
One of them has the full plan sent out, if you want that.
Well,
That's all, let's
Yeah,
just,
SD Way's next.
it's 441.
Well, we're up here.
We went back up.
Well, we only, you asked about engineering.
Oh, okay.
SD Way's right there.
Skip one, did
see something, just overview in relation to the.
Your existing conditions would be
Taylor, this is a continuation, right?
Yes, we just opened.
Opened and continued.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. right, we're gonna continue the hearing, Esty Way, and any residents that want to ask questions or speak, just give your name and address. Taylor, you want to start the presentation?
Sure, I think I will, if it's all right, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Lisa Mead on behalf of the applicant, Esty Way Realty Trust, George Hazeltine trustee, and Taylor Turbide is here with Millennium Engineering. He's the engineer on the project. Just to give a brief overview, I thought we would do that and talk a little bit about some of the submission requirements, and then Taylor will go through to do more detail description of the actual site. And if it's okay with you, I know Peter's not here, but he could go through some of the comments Peter had, so that put them on the table for the board. We understand Peter has to review his responses to those comments, and we would expect, obviously, another meeting with Peter getting back on his responses. But I think that we've essentially addressed all of Peter's concerns earlier, and we can have that conversation, obviously. So if it's okay, that's the way we'll proceed. The property is the remaining land off of what is a definitive subdivision entitled Estes Woods, as the board knows. It was Lot 11 on that subdivision, which was approved by the board in 2001. The lot is approximately 15 acres with 231 feet of frontage along Estes Way. However, this subdivision that we're proposing only uses 12 and a half of those acres, and it's all in Groveland. We're not purchasing the land in Boxford. It will, the Estes Way subdivision, or Estes Woods, created 11 house lots. This is the 11th lot, and we're proposing to put 8 new single-family homes on this property, as described, as you can see up, the overview plan that I've provided. The total length of the proposed right-of-way measured from the center line at Estes Way is 749.7 feet. The new dwellings will be served by on-site sewer and on-site water wells. We've provided to you a traffic report, not a full-blown traffic report. As you know, it's one of the waivers we've requested. But suffice it to say, what we've pointed out from the ITE trip generation handbook is that there will be negligible addition of traffic, a total average daily traffic increase of 77 vehicles, with 6 at the AM peak hour and 8 at the PM peak hour. So it's really, I think that in the terms of a traffic engineer, which I am not, it will hardly be noticed in the area. There will be no anticipated increases for the cost of police and fire due to the subdivision. You know, it will be safe. We assume all majority of these houses will be occupied by families with children. We assume creating a small increase in the number of students in your schools. The proposed roadway will be petitioned to be accepted once built and approved by the planning board as a public way. It will require Public Works to plow the road for the additional 750 feet, but compared to what the town already takes care of, that too is negligible. We have requested an additional waiver for cul-de-sac construction, removing the cobbles from the center of the cul-de-sac, as we have done in the past. And it's mostly because the DPW would prefer it that way. And so we've requested that waiver. So it would be constructed in a manner that the DPW would normally take care of any other public way in the town of Groveland. All electrical and communication services will be installed underground as in accordance with the subdivision regulations as well. I think it's important to note that there's one parcel, and Taylor will go over this, that we're asking for sidewalk on one side of the road only, namely this side of the road down and around here, and not over here, because this is being reserved as a buffer between this road and parcel A, and this lot off of Estes Way, right here in that subdivision. So we'd like to keep that not finalized and without a sidewalk along here, so the buffer remains, the wooded buffer remains in place. At this time, I think I would ask Taylor to go over some of the more finite issues in the subdivision plan, along with his responses to Peter's comments.
Thank you. First off, I will give you a written response for your record to Peter, and we'll go over them after I give a brief presentation. When you look at it, you'll see we've actually, in italics, put Peter's comment, and then in bold, outlined with our response to them. For the most part, they were negligible items, mostly housekeeping.
Can we ask who Peter is? That you can't keep referring to?
Peter Williams is, there'll be a full question and answer time after I present, but just to quickly summarize.
keep mentioning
He's,
him,
yeah,
that's
he's the, what happens is when we file, the board contracts outside engineering to review our work and to make sure that what we're doing is accurate and meets all requirements of the regulations and stormwater regulations, other local and state, federal regulations and things such as that.
So he's the peer review engineer for the board.
For the
Peter
town.
Williams works for the board. That's gonna go down. No, it's the-
Thank you, Lisa. My name is Taylor Turbide. I'm with Millennium Engineering. And we are the engineering and surveying consultant for the applicant, George Hazeltine. The property is currently owned by Mildred C. Esty Trust. Our client, George Hazeltine, is the applicant on the project, who currently has a purchase and sale, and has contracted us to go through the permitting process. The current property is Lot 11 on a previous subdivision, as Lisa mentioned, recorded or approved in 2001, which created Estes Way, a 24-foot wide pavement with sidewalk running up one side of the street. And we are proposing to drive access off of Estes Way through our 230 feet of frontage. Our property is about 15 acres. 12.5 acres of that resides in Groveland, 2.5 acres resides in Boxford. Town line runs through the property such as this. Through the Form A process with Boxford Groveland, we will separate that out, and that will not be included in the subdivision. The property is generally, at the beginning, it rises at between 8 and 12% slopes, a little ledgy up there, and then it drops off all the way to the back, anywhere from 8 to 20% slopes to the rear of the property. There are no wetlands on site. None of the site is in the floodplain, which is unusual these days. There is a wetland body at the rear of the property where all the current drainage goes, and then ultimately to the Parker River, which is 400 or 500 feet away from the back boundary of our property. What we are proposing to do, as stated, is bring a roadway in off of Estes Way, as shown here on. Our proposed road will be 24 feet wide. We're proposing vertical, sloped granite curbing through a majority of the roadway. We enter the roadway at a 2% slope for the first 25 feet. And at that point, we start to go into a vertical curve to catch up with the grade. The roadway descends at a 10% grade to the bottom of the slope to catch up with the existing grades, and then anywhere from 4 to 5% throughout the cul-de-sac. As stated, all drainage is contained in the property, on the roadway, collected via a series of catch basins, and at this point, we are proposing to use a stormwater detention area at the bottom of the property, which will ultimately discharge to the wetland, which is where the water currently goes, so we're maintaining existing hydraulic patterns. The roadway will create frontage for 8 new lots, lot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All the lots vary in size from 1 acre to the largest being about 1.8 acres. All of them have over 150 feet of frontage as required per the regulations in the zoning district. As Lisa briefly surmised, 8-lot subdivision in the grand scheme of things creates minimal impact to traffic. We've requested a waiver from a full submittal of a traffic report. As part of the reason we filed preliminary plans is to get the board's feedback. If it's something that they think is a necessity, then it's certainly something we can provide in the future with definitive should we move forward. We'd be creating 77 vehicle trips per day. It's a very slow side road with not a lot of access speed. The entrance to this cul-de-sac is about 600 feet from Uptack Road, 550 to 600 feet. So it's uphill. We don't anticipate existing high travel speeds, hence part of the reason we're asking for that waiver. As it stands today, we've done some preliminary soil testing on site to verify there is no town sewer and there's no town water within 1,000 feet. Therefore, there's no way for us to tie into it. So all 8 lots are proposed to be serviced via wells and on-site sewage disposal systems. The actual systems are shown here at the time being, a proposed primary system and reserve system. These areas are subject to change, but what we did do is we did a series of soil testing throughout all these lots, found the soils to be very consistent on site, which gives us a level of comfortable, makes us comfortable that no matter where we choose, we should be able to get passing systems when we ultimately site them down the road on, depending on house location, house size, things like that, number of bedrooms per unit. As mentioned, the road is 24 feet wide with granite curbing on each side. We're proposing a sidewalk down this side of the roadway, continuing around the cul-de-sac and through the frontage of Lot 8. What this will allow is us to accumulate any foot traffic, keep them off the roadway, and gain them access up to Estes Way, where presumably they would cross over the street. This is consistent with Estes Way, which also has only a sidewalk on one side of the street, so it maintains the similar feel. The planning board in their regulations is given that discretion to allow one sidewalk on the, if they see it fit. Part of the reason, in addition to just supplying the sidewalk to the frontage, is in citing this, we wanted to provide, there's really no houses near the back, this side of the property, which is part of how we cited and laid out the roadway, is we wanted to keep somewhat of the privacy feeling. We didn't want to be building into people's backyards, as much as possible. So all the house lots have been located to this side of the road. In addition, we slid the whole right-of-way over 25 feet, so that the actual 50-foot right-of-way for the roadway will be located 25 feet off the existing property line, with the idea to maintain as much of the natural tree buffer as we can. Where some of that buffer will be impacted via grading for the road construction, additional plantings will be replaced per the tree planting requirements. Along this side, we propose to follow along with the requirements of the subdivision regulations with trees planted every 50 feet. Typically with this board, and I assume it would be handled similar, it's something we do determine the exact location after construction and where it feels right to fit in with the environment and the natural topography of the ground. To quickly run through the Peter's comments, majority of these are just housekeeping items. He goes through the waiver request, basically just states them, which we are, I'll reiterate right now. We've requested a waiver that all plans be at a 1 inch equals 40 scale. The reason we did this is a couple of the plans are 1 inch equals 50 scale, just to be able to show you the entire site. Waiver request from the requirement that the title block be on the right-hand edge of the sheet. Per Millennium Standard format, it's just typically on the bottom. Proposed water supply system was not shown in the original plans as stated today. It still has not been cited, and the reason being is your regulations call for the fire suppression system to be at the top of the roadway. This is a conversation we plan to have with the fire chief and the fire department. Estes Way currently has a dry hydrant and storage tank right here, which is at the top of our roadway. So rather than putting one at the top of the roadway as required, it's a conversation we'd like to have with the fire chief on where it would be more suitable to serve their needs for any fire protection down the road. I'm presuming that it will be somewhere towards the bottom of the hill, but I didn't want to make that assumption without having first that conversation with them. So that would be something we would add in the definitive phase, the exact location of that. Again, we already, line types for existing grades in the roadway profile are hard to discern, so that's been added for clarity on the plans. This is again going through Peter's comments. The traffic memorandum, we briefly talked about that and the waiver request for that. So what we haven't done is we have not provided travel speed measurements and 85th percentile speed and actual on-the-ground measured traffic counts. These were established via state trip regulations. Sections 4.3 and 4.371 require that the roadway be extended to the property line. The way I read this regulation, if the board sees that that's a waiver that needs to be added, we certainly can. My interpretation of the way that's worded is for future subdivision expansion. In this case, we're surrounded by the Park River, and there's no way to access the site for future subdivision. So there's really no need for that roadway to be extended, the right-of-way to be extended to the property line. Intersection angle of the roadway where it meets the Estes Way. Peter's just looking for that information. Again, it's been added to the plans. We're required to meet a 70% angle with the existing roadway. In full disclosure, upon doing the calculation, we're about 68%, or 68 degrees. This will be something that'll be rectified. So basically, where it intersects, it's gonna be rotated about 2 degrees. Very simple to fix, you know, it's just regrading the site and all those matters. Something that, again, I would propose could be handled moving forward, given the minor nature of it. Curb radius at the entrance intersection should be indicated. Those have been both added to the plans. That's talking about the roundings of the curbing. Both sides of it conform with regulations as required at 25-foot radii. One of the waivers we're requesting, and Peter just calls it out again, at the entrance roadway, we're required to have a 2% grade for the first 75 feet. The idea of this is to provide a level landing area, particularly if you're coming into an intersection so you're not sliding. Given our situation, we'll be actually flowing downhill, so as you approach Estes Way, we'll be coming uphill, which removes the danger of possibly sliding into the street. We do provide a 2% level landing area for the first 25 feet of the roadway. Hence, we enter a vertical curve downwards, approaching a 10% grade. For the first 75 feet of the roadway, the average grade is 2.5%. So we're asking for essentially a 0.5% waiver on that. And I would propose there's no safety issue with that, and I assume down the road Peter would either agree or disagree and provide his information on that. The right-of-way radius at the entrance intersection should be indicated. That has been added to the plans. Again, this is one of the waivers we requested. The right-of-way would just be the paper property line. It's not anything you see on the ground, other than the stone bounds we would set as monumenting it. On this side, we conform with the regulations. On this side, we don't, simply because it would butt into the property line of the neighbor. If the board sees it as something they would like to see done, it certainly can be rectified, but it has zero impact on the design of the roadway. It just has to do with where the property line will be located. None of the design features of the roadway are impacted by it. As mentioned, the curb radii, the physical turning movements of the vehicles, all conform with your regulations. There is one technicality on, as we mentioned, the cul-de-sac length of our new roadway is 749 feet. Peter actually interpreted something which I've never seen interpreted this way with the board, in which formally, the way it's worded in the regulation, the portion of Estes Way leading up to the roadway should be included in the cul-de-sac length calculation. So as a technicality, we'll be adding that waiver request to include the first 500 to 600 feet of Estes Way, just to conform with your regulations. Proposed landscaping does not comply with section 4.3.11.15. That again has to do with detail A and the cobbles that Lisa briefly mentioned. So rather than providing a 10-foot strip of cobbles on the inside, which we certainly can do per previous conversations on roadways that get accepted for the town, the road commissioner prefers not to have the cobbles as a maintenance issue over time. Ultimately, it would minimize the cost of repairs to and burden the town down the road. Section 4.8.2 requires vertical curbing be installed anywhere over 5%. As mentioned, that's been clarified in the plans. That was the intent all along. There's no waiver request for that. Where we exceed 5%, which is from right about here, right here, through this section of the roadway, there will be vertical granite curbing installed, as well as at the roundings where it intersects with Estes Way. Location of existing buildings on adjacent properties have been added to the plan per request. At this time, they're digitized approximate locations. During the course of our field survey, as we get more definitive information for the design, we'll have actual field locations on the closest abutters. Location of ledge outcrops shall be shown in the plan. Again, as we move forward with field surveying, obtaining more detailed information, that will be added to the plan set as well. Just as you know, there's a couple ledge crops up in here. But it actually was a lot less than we thought. We did quite a bit of soil testing out there, and we were actually able to find even about 5 to 10 feet from the ledge crops you see, we were able to go 8, 9, 10 feet deep with soil, which actually surprised us. We were a little concerned about finding good septic areas up there, and there was plenty of area for it. It was better than we anticipated. Location of existing street trees and sidewalks on Esty Way. They have been added to the plan. Really, there's just 3 or 4 street trees along our frontage here. There's no sidewalk on our side of the street. There is on the other side. And again, as we move forward with additional survey, we'll expand that down more of the street so you can see the entire road as it goes. Site distance information on the entrance should be submitted. At this time, based on the information we have, we anticipate no issue with this. Based on the limit of the survey for preliminary submission, we are already at 275 feet, and we anticipate that increasing by well over 100 feet once the full survey is complete for definitive purposes. And he asked for clarification of the drainage easement on Lot 8. Lot 8 is located over here. There's an existing drainage easement that was created via the previous subdivision in 2001. That was for a detention basin, which is the same type of structure we're proposing down here for the handling of stormwater. Basically, the stormwater discharges to there, is stored, and then ultimately discharges from there, whether it be into the ground or flowing overflow. All of our design will take that into consideration to make sure there's no impact to that, or that does not impact our sewage systems or housing locations. At this point, unless Lisa feels you have anything you want to add, I open it up to the board for questions or clarification on anything.
Well, I think what we need to hear is really back from our engineer, and, you know, we like to have it between the engineers, as I said in the last meeting, and it generally gets down to very few situations at that point, and it's the engineer's response we're gonna go by.
Yep.
okay, For the
And
most part.
To go along with what you're saying,
Okay.
me personally, from our end, I don't see any safety concerns with any of our waiver requests, and I've talked to Peter about it and asked for his opinion to be, expressed to the board as well, as what he sees, particularly on top of our design, making sure everything makes sense and engineerily works. Does he see any issue with our waiver requests as well?
The other thing is, where this road comes out into Estes Way, how many houses on Estes Way?
Before us?
Yes,
Yep.
before you.
I believe it's
Once you have a
3,
plan.
yeah, I do, I'm gonna pull that up. There's one side. All right, so what we have here is, here's Estes Way, this would be the end of it, cul-de-sac. And Uptack Road is actually just off of this. If my memory serves me, I believe there's one house, and if any of the butters, please correct me if I'm wrong, feel free to. I believe there's 2 houses on this side of the street, and then there's 1, 2, 3 on this side of the street.
Do you anticipate hitting any ledge in the roadway?
Our anticipation is probably a little bit.
When you exposed the ledge that was there, was it a shale type, or was it the solid that you would
It
have?
was pretty rocky. And honestly, we didn't expose any new ledge, put it that way. We were rather surprised.
Will a hydraulic hammer handle it? or do you
I think so,
expect blast?
yeah, I think so. And we've tried to minimize, and that's part of the waiver request, is we're trying to play with the 2% level landing area. Actually,
Trying to get to this 77,
for those that aren't familiar with engineering plans, this is what is called a road profile. When you look at it, it looks steep, but it's exaggerated. What it is a 10 exaggeration to 1 horizontally. But, so what you can see here is this is the area we'll be cutting into, Bob, just to show you. It's approximately, at our worst, we get about 4 or 5 feet deep.
Taylor,
Yes.
can you go to the original The one you had up there first.
Yep, when Lisa was speaking, or the one that I had?
You had. So that, the one that the review engineer, I think it was number 8. So you're gonna try to get the new road to come out to Esty Way more on
Yeah.
like a T?
Yeah, so, if you look here, see how we curved in
Yeah.
right at the last minute? That's just gonna rotate about 2 degrees.
Because the plans we got
Close.
show it more like an off-ramp.
Yeah, that's when I say, 70%, so here's 90. Your regulations required about right here.
Yeah.
Right now, we're about right there, we're about 2 degrees off.
Yeah.
So
That would
that's
be-
something,
That would be better, right? but-
absolutely, we're gonna bring it, probably at least up to 75%, maybe 80%. Part of the reasoning for that is to follow the grading a little bit, and that's why we introduced some of the slant. If the board would rather see it at a full 90 degrees, we can certainly do that. The idea with the angle is to, again, reduce some of the cutting and things such as that.
Just don't want the cars coming out.
Yeah,
And
No, I
it'd be
hear you.
like a merge.
And this is,
That's what it would,
to explain, to the public as well, this is a big part of why we file preliminary plans is, as we get into definitive design, things get a lot more expensive to design, a lot more time is put into it. So we like to flesh out these ideas and thoughts and comments and any consideration and try and take as much into it as we can and come up with the best plan for everybody.
Is that an open air detention basin?
This one, current, that we're proposing, yes. And then also, when we do definitive design, our plan at this point, based on preliminary soils, is to, any roof runoff will be infiltrated via some type of infiltration trench or something along the lines, similar to what we used at Groveland Fairways, if you recall that.
Yeah, why are you not using underground
That's
detention
what we
basins?
would use with, underground out here, I mean, what we would be doing is creating large impervious areas under the ground. Or you could use gravel, I suppose, but it creates a huge storage area. Whereas this, what it allows us to do is it allows it to sit there, it weeps in. You don't have to worry about it because although we designed to a 100-year storm, quite often storms do exceed the 100-year storm, and that's why we have overflows, things like that. It's just a safer way to design it. It lets it evaporate, it lets it infiltrate, and then what doesn't get taken back into the soil or the air is allowed to flow out.
I'm concerned about the mosquitoes and the maintenance
Oh.
that we,
This is wet for the next 2 miles. This is minimal. Once you get to this wetland, it is wet. It's leading up to the Parker River, lots of standing water. And trust me, there's mosquitoes out there already. Got eaten alive. You familiar with that?
Want to open it up to the residents? All right, we'll open it up to the residents. State your name and address, and then your concerns. And any concerns, you need to supply paperwork written so that we can keep it in mind when we're going over the different revisions.
Make sure they go to the microphone.
Yes, yeah, please come up, the microphone's over here, okay, so I want you to come up over to there if you're gonna speak.
Good evening, I'm William Cook of 10 SD Way in Groveland. The last meeting I came here, I spoke about this whole development. I'm the one that's going to receive the most impact. I live at 10 SD Way. 10 SD Way is the direct abutter to the roadway and to the plan and Lot 8 in the back.
Right up here, right?
Yes. So, at the front part of my property, I have a well. The road's gonna run near the well. That whole area at the front part of the property where he's talking about the 2% grade, if you actually looked at it, it drops off pretty far. It's all ledge. When they put the road in the Vesti Way, they had to blast the road. There was a lot of granite, ledge that was taken out of there, and they end up having to transfer all that out of there, and I believe the planning board actually made them relocate the original placement of Esty Way. So if you look at that, the grade of that property, it goes almost like down like a cliff type of thing, the way it looks now. In the planning board books, when you look at, I tried to study this as best I can, and some of it I understood, some I didn't understand. It's not my expertise. But when I looked through the books, they had talked about to try to maintain the original grade of the property, and also that was the 4.3.10, and then there's a 4.3.10.4, which talks about the 2% grade for 75%, which tonight we talked about 2% grade for 25 feet. I'm sorry, 2% grade for 75 feet, and he had mentioned 2% grade for 25 feet. The beginning part of that road, I don't know if it's something they can just chip away at and they can make their roadway. But if they're gonna have to blast, my well is right up against that. Originally, that property had railroad ties on it. And when they put the development in, it was kinda like a dump up in that spot. All the railroad ties were removed, and I had concerns about my well at that time, and that's why I wanted the stuff out of there. Also, I have a gunite pool in my backyard. And obviously, I'm concerned about my foundation due to the amount of ledge that's up there. Now, during testing, I guess it's showing that some of it's gonna move easily or whatever else, but I know for a fact they had a blast to put that road in. I don't know what the law is on how close you're to build a roadway next to a well. I don't know what supplies my well. I don't know if there's an aquifer under that area or not, and I don't know how much entitled I am to questioning that. But I know my well is right on the corner of the lot, up at the front, near that ledge area.
Do you have a rough estimate of how many feet off the proposed roadway it is?
I don't.
We can
I
get
don't.
it.
He had said tonight that, which I'm still learning from the maps and looking at stuff. I believe he had talked, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there was a 25-foot buffer from the line to the road,
Yep.
is what it sounded like.
Show them that, show them where it
Yes,
is.
It's right in here, and assuming you have no issue with it, we would like to locate your well. Typically, as we move forward with our survey, we'll be knocking on your door.
Yeah.
You know, obviously get permission, but we'd like to locate your house, your well, things like that.
Sure.
Because we are here to try and make sure everyone's needs are addressed, and there's no issues. This area in here is primarily gonna remain untouched. There's a little bit just at the top of the hill that'll be required for grading, where we cut into the slope a little bit. Where that does get disturbed, we will replant with trees to try and preserve some of your buffer. Where do you think your well is, up in the front here, or
It's right up in the corner there, yeah.
do you know how far off the road, if you had to guess? And like I said, we will locate it. As far as roadways and wells, there's no setback. The biggest thing with wells is the setback from septic.
Right.
We'll be required to stay 100 feet from that.
That's all I could find when I looked online.
Right.
It was more talking about the septic than about,
As far as
necessarily.
your aquifer goes, like I said, up in this area, we'll be cutting 4 to 5 feet, which isn't gonna get anywhere close to where a well gets dug to typically. And then the rest of the site is primarily fill. So we won't be coming in, you know, at the steep slope that you spoke about. We'll be filled up as we chase it down the hill with our 10% grade until we catch up with it right about in this area.
okay.
And there would be, if there was blasting,
Right.
there would be
It's-
pre-blast surveys done.
Yes, and that's something
That
that
would protect.
the
You-
blaster would be liable for.
Right, the contractor owner has to do a pre-blast survey, has to work with the fire department, and has to have special insurance on it.
Yeah.
So that all has to be covered before they can do anything,
If
if
there
they're,
was-
if they're gonna do
It's come-
blasting.
It's come quite a ways with the hammer now.
Yeah,
But it would certainly be covered by liability, insurance, things like that. You wouldn't be, somebody else would be responsible for if things went wrong.
Okay.
Not that they do, I'm not.
Right, right. No, obviously, we don't want anything to go wrong, but I mean, if
The
it goes
precau-
that way,
The
there's
precautions are
protection.
important, and
Right.
so,
So would they send some out to take pictures of my house and
yeah,
my-
they have,
and
they
to
have
make sure
an
that there's
independent
no-
person comes out
Yeah.
and does a survey of the house, you know, obviously the foundation, things of that nature. They're gonna look at where the location of the well is, see the operations and things like that before they would do anything. At this point in the preliminary stage, it doesn't appear as though blasting is gonna be necessary, but when the definitive plan comes in, we're gonna know a lot more information to be able to give you a lot more information about what's gonna happen. And that's what Taylor's suggesting, is that when the definitive plan comes in, the houses, the monuments, the wells, things like that are gonna be located on the plan, so you can see exactly where that is versus where the construction's gonna occur and things of that nature.
And obviously, if the road's gonna change the way that land is set up, I'm concerned about drainage and where our groundwater's gonna, I understand you have the 100-year flood plan at the end of the cul-de-sac.
Well,
And you
Peter,
have that whole,
you know, the board's engineer can address this more next time, because that's one of his primary focuses, particularly when the definitive plan comes in. And I'm gonna butcher this, so I'm gonna let Taylor address it. But there's a regulation, both a state and local regulation, about not increasing the rate of runoff or the volume of runoff when you do construction on your property. So you can't increase the rate or volume onto another person's property. They don't have to improve your property, but
And
they
the-
can't cause more.
And in addition, we can't change the water course of it.
Right.
So ultimately, everything's ending up in this wetland down here, and that has a lot to do with where we place this. Ultimately, what it comes down to is, a simple way to put it is, water flows slower on grass than it does on pavement. So in order to handle that, there's two things we have to do. Pavement is dirtier than grass, it has oils, it has sands, so we have to clean it. So there's a series of measures we use to clean it, such as catch basins, they have what are called sumps in them, things like that, hooded hoods, that clean some of that out. And then this also serves as a cleaning tool as well. Constructed wetlands, things like that, which clean the soil, oils and silts and things. Based on how we size this, what we use for structures, we slow the water down, we store the water, we do what's necessary to meet certain storm events. We don't get into definitive calculations with that at this point, because they're very time consuming. Inexpensive, but based on our experience, we lay something out, and then as we move into definitive, we submit the calculations to the board and the reviewing engineer. And usually, 9 times out of 10, that's the biggest back and forth there is between the reviewing engineer and ourselves, is making sure that everything jives with that and there's no outstanding issues.
now that buffer zone that we talked about alongside the road,
Yep,
when we go into Lot 8, which will be directly behind my house,
correct.
is there gonna be a buffer zone there?
Well, that's something that can certainly be discussed. Ultimately, we have setbacks, that we can't build the house closer than, I believe it's 15 feet.
15 feet on the side,
To
10
the
on
side
back.
setback. I've seen certain situations where the planning board might suggest a tree buffer be maintained or things such as that, and that's certainly something that I'm sure our client would entertain.
But to the extent that they don't interfere with the existing easement. So
Correct,
there's an
that as
existing
well.
drainage easement that was a part of your subdivision
Yes,
requirements.
yeah.
So they couldn't go through and plant in that.
Right.
They can't tamper with that, but
Yeah.
along the front,
That's pretty much grown back.
right, along the
over
front
time.
portion, they would be able
This,
to
you know,
have a discussion about it for sure.
It's certainly something that could, maybe the 15-foot setback line, we maintain the tree buffer. It's, and that's why we're
I'd like
here.
to make sure, I mean, if they're gonna do the clear cutting and cleaning the area, and you're talking about replacing trees, I mean, we don't want trees that are gonna be growing back 20 years from now. We want a tree that's actually gonna be acting as a buffer. So,
Yeah,
I
and think it would
understand.
help- I'm sorry, Bill, I think
Yeah.
it would help if you got Bill's house on that plan.
yeah.
Oh, his house is on it now. It's located right here.
Is that it? I thought
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was a set.
But what I was saying, it's not field located, it's traced in, it's plus or minus 3 or 4 feet.
Right.
Whereas we'll show it exact.
Yeah.
in the future.
Well, we don't have that.
Can I
on
ask-
these
Correct, that
plans.
was added per the comments.
How big is Lot 1, size-wise?
Lot 1 is 43,562
So
acres.
it's exactly an acre, because I was wondering if that road could push over.
No, we tried to push it over as far as possible
Yeah.
without losing the acreage on that line.
And keep in mind, there's a 25-foot strip there. That doesn't mean the road is at 25 feet either. The road's another 8 feet over. So the road is actually.
32 feet from
Yeah.
your property line.
Yeah,
The road begins 32
The
feet?
the
Correct.
pavement of the road
Yeah.
begins 32 feet from your property line.
Okay.
yeah. Whereas that strip I referred to as 25 feet, but then you'll see there's actually extra area between that invisible property line that you won't see on the ground and where the actual pavement would be.
I just want to make sure that if we're going to have a buffer zone, because I've seen this happen before in many places, when, you know, it's time to go and strip the land. They strip the land, mature trees, mature growth is gone, and then we just plant some shrubs that we're waiting 20
Well,
years
what would happen
to
is
start
we'll,
having.
we'll actually lay out silt fence so that the contractor can't get in there.
Well,
Have that
yeah,
staked out
so
for
there's a
it.
couple of things that'll happen on the definitive plan also. They'll probably mark the larger trees that are not gonna be taken down, so that the board understands what vegetation is gonna be left, and understands better where the placement of the required trees are gonna go.
And there'll be site walks, so if there's particular trees you have concern over, you can certainly point them out at that time as well.
Okay. I'm sure when you do a site job like this, is there a setup for rodent control and stuff like that?
Absolutely, yeah.
We have wildlife, and I don't end up with the million mice in my
Absolutely.
basement. when you
Erosion
end up-
control is
yeah.
one of the, oh, you said
No,
rodent.
rodent.
Rodent
Sorry.
control.
No, I can't say I have, I mean,
There's-
it's,
It's not, there's
It's not
rodent
my
control,
area.
when you do a demolition, there's a
Have
rodent
control.
control
demolition
plan,
of a house,
Take
there's
this
like-
not on an open field.
I'm
I hear
just
you have some
saying,
aggressive
take a
coyotes
break
around,
on
maybe
this.
that'll be helpful.
yeah, we saw the news truck.
Let,
Yeah,
let
yeah.
McConnell talk.
Yeah, there's some coyotes out there, no doubt about
He's
it.
been here a long time, that's all I can tell you.
So, there's different areas I end up reading through the planning board rules. And like, obviously, my well is a concern of mine, that's where my water comes from. So if it's, I'm just hoping that that well isn't gonna be affected, because it basically says in the planning board rules, if there's anything that's gonna affect any health, on any issue that's done on the property, it is something that needs to be addressed. And then the intersections on the flat grade, and following that property the way its natural grade is. Originally, at one time, I was pretty much under the impression, because of the grade of the property over there, that wasn't gonna be buildable at some point in time. Pardon me for a minute, I have a lot of notes here that I'm just scribbling through.
And please, submit them to the board in writing formally, and then they'll provide us with copies as well. That way, should you forget anything, we have your concerns and can take them into consideration.
Was
I'm
this-
taking notes also.
Okay. Was this considered the best route into the property?
That's, yes, that's what we consider to be the best route for overall balance of protecting the neighborhood and the layout of the
Were
lots.
there any other public ways in the town of Groveland that abutted that property?
This piece of land?
Yes, other than SD Way?
No.
There's nothing?
No.
In the back, we got into a little bit of a discussion over this. In back there, the back part of the property, there is a street sign. Whether it's a street or not a street, someone says it's a driveway, I don't know what it is. Omega Road. Omega Road in the back of that property.
Private.
It's a private way. Why do we have a street sign on a private piece
Because
of
when
land?
we went to the new street signs for 911, we did private ways too, one time.
Okay.
We put the new street signs on all the ways.
So it was never an adopted paper
No.
street or anything else? It was not?
And
Okay.
that's what, when I refer to, we plan to have it accepted by the public, that's the difference.
Yes,
Is the public would have right to use it versus,
right.
you know, sometimes we do these and we make them private so that nobody is allowed to touch them.
Okay, I guess that's the only questions I have at this time. Thank you very much.
One question, how deep is your well, and is it encased in bedrock?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'd have to look at my original, when I bought the property, they gave me my original, you know, so much water is pumped in an hour and all that type of stuff. I'd have to look at that. I don't know what that actually says.
I'd like to see that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
I'd like to ask the board if we could just take a little break for a minute. Sergeant McDonald's been here for quite a while. His report is very minimal, and I'd like to get him on.
Sure.
He's been here, he's about since 7:30, I believe, so.
Does he need to be here?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Come on up.
Want me up here? The mic?
Whichever.
Used to microphones today, apparently.
No. You can tell us about that one, too.
Coyotes are in Groveland, just in
Yeah,
case
it's,
anyone had a question about
You
that.
know.
I was told to come here tonight, just in case
Right.
anyone had any issues or questions about the special requirements for registered marijuana dispensaries.
Right,
So, I read through them.
okay.
Really, what I found in some of the research I've done, just as long as the regulations don't, the intent behind the regulation isn't to prohibit
No.
a dispensary to be in town, the AG always sort of kicks back those or, denies those from going forward. This has the 300 feet, I think it was, 300 feet from a
Yeah,
playground,
schools, churches, every,
residential district boundary line, house of worship, school, playground, daycare facility. I mean, there are places in town which would qualify for that, so Federal Way comes to mind. So, but I didn't know if anyone here had any questions at all about it.
no. I thought there was something about 911, somebody was supposed to come and talk about that at one point from the police.
Oh, yeah, that was the new 911 system, sort of a segue. I'm not about marijuana dispensaries anymore. We're all going to what they call the next generation 911, which is people will be able to text 911 now. And at some point, they'll be able to video chat 911. Not quite sure how that's going to work. So basically and how it's going to work is with the GIS, the state GIS system, which is the mapping system. So that's how we get the maps on the computer screens at the station. So what we're sort of looking for is when the planning board approves like a development or even a single house on a road or something, if we could get that information, because we can get that right to GIS, they can import that in their system, and even before anything's built, someone's cutting trees for the house, and they get hurt and they dial 911, it'll show up on our map. So
Okay,
I think that's gonna be an easy one, actually, just to let us know when something new is approved, so,
all right,
that's it, that's all I got.
that's it? Okay, sorry to keep you waiting.
Oh, no problem at all, so.
All right, okay.
All right. Any
Thank-
questions at all? Anyone? Okay, good. The news cameras are still out front, so
Yeah.
I wish there was another exit, but.
All right,
Thank you.
all right, we're gonna go back to item 4 again. Okay.
Anyone else from the audience, residents?
Any other comments, questions? Go ahead, state your name and address.
Good evening, I'm Jose Escobar. I live at 7 Esty Way, and so I'm the house that's across the street from the proposed new road. And the question I have is the angle. So I guess you're looking at about 78 to 80 degree or so, right, give and take. And you've mentioned the 2% grade for the first 25 feet. And so
And 2.5 for the first 75.
So when you look at it today, it slopes significantly, right, when you, if you're gonna walk it up. So I don't know if you're planning on cutting through or not, if that's the intent. The question is more of, as you're coming up from the 10% that you're gonna build, and you come to the top of the hill, as you start going down, how's the lights and the traffic?
We actually are
how
never
is it
going to
gonna
come
look?
down. It's going to be uphill the whole way. So
Okay.
Right.
they should stay above your plane, I guess.
No, he means
Well-
coming back.
Headlights.
Yeah, he's
Coming
worried about
from
it
the cul-de-sac
down,
onto
yeah.
Esty Way.
It's uphill the whole way. There's no.
No, right, that's the issue. So you're on the opposite side, if I could, I'm just
Yep.
wanna.
Do you want the profile or?
So you're over here.
Correct.
Obviously, it's important to locate your house, because I don't know exactly where it is. Your concern is when the cars come up here,
Right.
are the headlights gonna be right into your house?
Correct.
We need to locate your house. Do you have a,
We can show it on that for now. You can see roughly where it is. So he would be located
So you're here, right? So,
It's pointed kind of away,
well,
a little bit. It can be shifted.
which is your, Taylor, what are you doing to how to straighten that out?
I'm sorry, what's
To,
that? So his
Bob's
house
talking
is,
about, right. So are you proposing to straighten it out a little
yeah,
bit more?
so right now, it's kind of pointing off to the right of your house. That's something we can certainly take into consideration if it's a concern of yours, is making sure that when they pull up, they're not looking straight at your house.
So that's,
Right.
Yeah.
we got you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
And that's what we're looking for.
And then likewise, right, with our neighbor's house, so there's a buffer zone between us, right? And if you can, if the lights can be angled so that it's not hitting
There's
anybody's house.
space in between.
Correct.
But
Well, we've gotta
please
meet
submit
the-
that in writing to us so that we
Yes.
don't forget that. when we're-
So the balance, there's a balance. We have to meet the intersection requirements, and then we want to avoid the headlight in the house syndrome. So that's something we'll have to work on the definitive plan with, right?
I mean, I suppose if it became an issue, we could ask for a waiver for 2% or something.
Well, we
if
can
it-
need to look at it
Yeah,
and see what it
exactly.
is.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments from any of butters at this point? Anybody on Esty Way?
We just need a
How would you
continuation.
do the comments, Bob? Have them put them in the planning board box?
Yes. All right, so,
Now, does the board, at this point, have any desire for a site walk? Just, so it's assuming we get Peter here next time, we can maybe get this moving forward. If it's something you wanted to do,
Like maybe Thursday?
perhaps we could schedule tomorrow.
have you staked the center line out there? Have you done that?
There's a rough center line out there right now already from us doing soils, because per your regulations, we did do soil tests every 200 feet down the roadway. We can certainly, if there's certain things you'd want to see, just let us know, and we can make sure it's
It's got mosquitoes,
delineated
Bob.
out there.
Right. The main thing we want to see
You
is
can't
the
go near them.
center line of the road and the cul-de-sac, and then the old growth trees that we want to save,
Yep,
so
that can be something we can actually flag up on the walk if you want as well.
you, our,
Do you want limited grading at this point?
well,
That's something
we
you
want
want.
it flagged for wetlands and everything.
Oh, no, I mean limit of our roadway grading.
Yes.
Okay.
And one other question, on the replication of the wetlands, where did you?
We have no,
We're
there's,
not going to impact wetlands.
the only wetlands are located
Oh,
off our
okay,
site.
'cause
We
I
have
read-
nothing within 100 feet
All right,
at this point.
okay. So all we need to do is set a continuation.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question before we do that, though? We need to schedule site walk, though, also. But for the next time, if we could get an idea on the traffic report, going into the definitive plan, and then a flavor on the waivers
Yeah.
going into the definitive plan.
I don't think we need a traffic report.
No, it was a minimized traffic report.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But you feel we don't even need that?
Well, you gotta vote on that, that's. you
Yeah.
know. And I know the last one, I mean, it wouldn't be a dot on a watermelon.
And we
But
did do it
it's-
for 7 Star Road, but in
Yeah.
all fairness,
It's a lot
that is a
different.
busier road.
Yeah.
This is 6 trips during peak hour.
We need to consult with our engineer.
That's
Yep,
fine.
absolutely.
Okay. All right, so I'll back off on that.
Okay, any 60-degree day, we'll do the sidewalk.
We don't want this week. Well, when would be the next meeting at this point? And then we can go from there.
Well, we gotta discuss that, I mean, I would like to go back to 2 meetings a month, no matter what. Chairman here and chairman not here,
Yep.
or new chairman here, you know, for all I care. It's just, we've gotta serve the public,
Yeah.
and too many times, these things are just going, sometimes months,
Yeah,
Right.
and I don't want that to happen.
Well, I
It's just-
appreciate the
That's my
thought.
vote.
yeah.
We'll go with 2 a month.
Yeah, I'd like to set a meeting 2 weeks from tonight.
So is that the date formally?
So
or-
that's-
Well, I mean, is everybody okay with that?
Bill has a question.
1995. No, it's,
Jim,
Well, today's
Yeah,
the
the 20th.
6th, the 20th.
they got a new one.
Jim,
Yeah.
Bill has a question.
Yeah.
I get everybody edging me on to ask questions back here. Do we know the type of house you're planning on putting on the property and the value of those houses? What size, square footage,
Well,
ranch, colonial?
Well, he wants to keep him within the same area. You know, he just got done building the ones off of Seven Star Road, the subdivision off Seven
Broken
Star Road.
fairways, if you're familiar with that.
And so, you know, he doesn't have a design yet, but he wants to keep him consistent with the area, for sure. And, you know, in the price range, you know,
And
mid-fives-ish,
he was sick tonight, I believe, so
Yeah,
he'll
he's-
probably be at the next meeting.
got the
And-
flu, so
okay.
we told him not to.
And when you're saying you're gonna draw houses on the map, you're just gonna basically
Oh, the
show where
f-
they're gonna be
yeah,
placed, the
right,
footprint.
right,
It's not
right.
gonna be any.
When we
any
get to
plan.
definitive, and we'll show driveways, because that's all stuff we have to take into consideration with the stormwater.
We
Okay.
could have him come in with some ideas of the kinds of houses he builds, so you get a general idea of
Okay.
them.
All right.
But, I mean, you know, no guarantee, because obviously he
Yeah.
has a buyer, but,
And customizes to it.
yeah,
to some
but it's,
degree.
you know, he wants to have a nice subdivision.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so 2 weeks,
Yeah.
is that?
I could do the 20th.
Is everybody okay with that?
All right,
Okay,
20th
so
sounds
two-
good.
2 weeks.
At, what time?
7:30.
7:30?
7:30?
Hold on. We open mail and sign off 7:30 to
So it'll
7:45,
be,
so.
yeah,
You want to do
7:45?
8 or
o'clock.
7:45?
7:45.
8 o'clock,
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
yeah.
Now, how about site walk? Are we gonna do a preliminary one, or are we just doing definitive?
Well, the weather is gonna dictate that on snow drifts and cold, too.
It's not gonna snow, but it is gonna
Yeah,
get cold.
I don't wanna spend George's money and go stake everything out if we're not gonna
Right.
do one. We have no problem doing one, having said that,
Let's
but
put it this way, how much additional work can you get done, you know?
oh, there's no problem on our end.
You
It's
know,
just-
yeah, I would rather put it off until, maybe even some of these things in here are taken care of and everything too, and then we can get out there.
So you're pushing more
I
towards the
would say-
definitive?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say
Okay.
pushing more,
Yep.
you know, we know more.
Yep.
And the questions at that point, you know, get a little bit less, but they're more meaningful
Yep.
rather than
Well,
minutia.
and with the definitive phase, we'll have the drainage more locked down and exact locations of that, and
So we'll
so
do
we have no problem with that.
Between
that
the
sounds
freeze
good.
and before the mosquitoes.
Yes, well, he can't do mosquitoes.
I know, that's why I said.
Oh, they're vicious out there.
Yeah, he'll give you a discourse on the Panama Canal.
Okay, so that's great.
All right,
Thank you very much.
okay, so we need a vote to continue.
Make a motion to continue to the 20th of
Now,
February.
Second?
Okay,
Bob, do you have a record of the letter we gave you extending? Do we need a new extension?
You better do a new
Yeah.
extension,
I
yes.
think we might need one.
Do you have a form, or do you want me to
No, just,
A quick little letter, I think.
write
just send
it
you
in.
you want me to just send you a letter?
Yes,
Okay.
You don't need to vote it in tonight, though.
no.
No, they just need our approval, our agreement to it.
but you're definitely
We
gonna
have
be
to
here
request
next 2 weeks from now, right?
Correct, but I just don't want, I don't remember what the date was that we extended last time. I gave you a
We'll
letter that
we'll
night,
give
I
it, we'll
think.
give it to you.
Yeah.
I'll send it over.
Just don't want to screw up any of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, what we got, 441,
Yeah. 441.
I think everything else, I mean, I gotta talk about the marijuana bylaw, 'cause we gotta come up with a hearing on that. And we've gotta talk about the budget.
Yep.
And we've gotta accept the piled minutes again.
Most of the people are here for 441, so.
Yeah.
If you want to meet George and talk to him, he'll probably be there. He was-
Second hearing for the,
Well, yeah, and it's, we can set it any time, okay, before annual town meeting. Okay, they've gotta be at least the advertisement's 7 days apart. But when I write
All right, ladies and gentlemen, one of our board members is in a butter to the 441. So we want to just complete a couple of short agenda items before she leaves the room. So if you'd bear with us, Jim? you wanna-
Okay, the first one is gonna be some old planning board minutes to be approved. And I'm just gonna read off the dates and so that we can have a motion to approve these dates. And I'll file them with the town clerk tomorrow. 6/22/2010, 6/29/2010, 9/15/2010, 9/28/2010, 10/5/2010, 5/11/2011, 3/29/2012, 3/12/2013, 4/23/2013, 10/14/2014, 10/28/2014, 11/18/2014, and 12/2/2014. We need a motion to accept, to approve, and then a second.
So motioned.
Second.
Vote.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Good.
And, second, you. Okay, next item is the marijuana, registered marijuana dispensaries bylaw. Everybody's got a copy in front of them. What I have to do is we have to set up a hearing dates. So the way we're gonna do this is, I gotta write the article for the paper, be 7 days apart. And we'll probably just continue the hearing, where the information is gonna be. Although it's only 4 pages, we're not gonna print 4 pages of a bylaw in a newspaper, that's just too costly. It's gonna be put on the town website. Where exactly, I don't know as yet, but as soon as we find that out, that's what will go in the notice to the paper. And
Copy of town clerk.
there'll be copies at the town clerk, we'll post it in our window, we'll put it at the library. But at the same time, it will tell you where to find the entire bylaw on the town website. I don't have that as yet, but that'll be coming within 4 weeks out. All right, let's see.
So you want to, the board to approve,
Setting up the advertisement, and then I'll follow through on the hearing dates. Well, the hearing dates will be, it will be 7 days after the last publication legally, but, what we'll do is, it'll probably be sometime in February, that's when it'll start. But, and it'll be on the town website. So all I have to do really is, get the article for the paper, and, this is, what you see in front of you is what will appear on the town website at that point, and what everybody can, once we set up the hearing, and we'll continue the hearing dates, that's all. So,
all right.
all righty?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. What was it next? The next thing is the budget, but I think we can do that later tonight. I don't think we need to.
And we'll do after Main Street, we'll do the vote for the
Chairman?
chairman.
Yeah. Okay,
All right, thank you.
all righty. You can go
Thank you,
home.
Evan. See you the 20th.
See you on the 20th.
Yeah,
Yep. I'll put that in the office, yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, 441 Main Street. Thank you for letting us get rid of the minutia.
No problem. Been there. Good evening. For the record, my name is Larry Ogden, a consultant with Mr. Harper, who is here tonight. Basically, our purpose on coming in tonight is, as you know, we filed for a special permit and site plan approval, a special permit for the Aquifer Protection District and site plan approval. I believe it was filed December 1st. We're coming here tonight to talk about the fees, get your check for those. Selecting a review engineer. We have a memo from our council on the pre-existing non-conforming uses. And then set up a hearing date for your actual hearing and hopefully get a copy of the advertisement or a copy of the approval for an advertisement that we can put in the paper and also send out to the abutters. So I guess our first question is, I know your fees, I believe, for the aquifer protection are $5,000 and $500 for site plan approval. And where this is a pre-existing non-conforming use, there's very little activity that's going to occur from a planning board subdivision or construction point of view on the site. There have been 2 drainage situations that were repaired down by the river based on an emergency order from the Conservation Commission, so they could be done before winter really sets in. And the site plan itself basically is, we've eliminated hot top, the impervious area is reduced, and we're gonna be putting in some berms and some stuff like that, but we're not doing anything to the drainage or any infrastructure in the ground. The site presently is on town sewer and has town water, and the electric department has run new wires overhead, so there's no real significant construction work on the site. So this is not similar to a full-blown subdivision where you have a significant amount of review and engineering to do, so we were requesting maybe a reduction in those fees, if amenable to the board.
Let me get back to the fees. Site plan review, I see it as 500. Then the special permit filing fee is 5,000.
Yeah.
And if you have units, 500 each. Then the engineering fee that has to be set up for a special permit is 5,000. So you're looking at 10,500.
Okay.
All right, has anything changed from the plan that you had passed?
There will
on?
be a revised plan that's being worked on by Mashonder Associates. Mashonder is the civil engineering firm on the site that is incorporating is revising the plan for the submission of the notice of intent to the Conservation Commission. That's expected towards the end of this week, maybe the beginning of next week. As soon as we have that, I will get copies of that to the board and copies to the review engineer that we select tonight. But as far as the rest of the application, the only thing to add to that is this document which is a memorandum from John Christopher concerning the non-conforming use of the pre-existing non-conforming use of the property and addressing.
Address is 106?
No, it doesn't address your bylaw.
Oh, okay.
It does address 106, I'm sorry, because it is a pre-existing non-conforming use. And that he's addressed in there, he's addressed in there the question of abandonment and the legality of whether it was ever abandoned or not, which is not the case, because SD maintained the property, they stored material on the property, and they paid their taxes, and they had it up for sale.
Yeah.
But it's just, the question has arisen before, so we wanted to put something in writing for your review.
No, that's good, because I would request that we submit this to Copeland and Page to go over it and see if everything's agreed upon on that, just to clarify it, to stop all the rumors and everything.
I don't think we have a problem with that.
Yep. One thing I'd like to read, this is Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, 9 states, and special permits are issued to authorize specifically itemized uses after weighing the benefit or detriment of a proposal. So I want to make sure that what you submit, you're going to do a revised plan of what you had given us before.
Yeah, that'll be slightly changed, and I'll, like I said, I'll
But
get that to
It's
you.
going to list specifically everything that you want on that one, right?
Yeah, well, the special permit we have applied to in front of the planning board is the aquifer protection permit.
Yeah.
We're not here on a zoning issue. So,
Right.
yeah, it'll show that. The plan does currently show the aquifer lines and what is being done on the site.
Yeah.
As far as site work goes, which affects it. And there is a spreadsheet list that's attached to it of who the occupants are and what they are storing in those buildings or using the buildings for. So that list will be there. I submitted 8 copies to the other boards that required, the Board of Selectmen, the Water Department, the Board of Health, and I'll resubmit an updated drawing to them on that. And also an update of this list, because there
Right,
have been a
because
couple of
the-
minor tenants.
The feedback from all the other departments, it has to be inclusive of what's on this.
Right,
plan.
absolutely.
Right.
So I'll resubmit that to them at the same time.
Yeah.
And that will all be done, obviously, before the hearing, because the hearing has to be advertised, or scheduled, advertised, and all that kind of stuff.
And do you have a choice of what engineer you want to go with?
Yeah, I believe we would like to go with GSA, Dave Stewart, I think is his name.
Peter Williams, is it?
E. Williams.
Yeah, Peter Williams, I think, is one of the
Yeah, one of the engineers.
engineers.
Right.
So what I'll do is, once, if that's all right with the board, I'll get him a copy of, or 2 copies of the application we made to the planning board. And I'll get him the updated plan when it's available.
All right, so we also need to pick a date that you need to advertise with the hearing.
Right.
And it would be are you agreeable to February?
Yeah, that would be great.
So it'll be a Tuesday in February, whichever one you want to pick, that you can get it in the paper.
Okay, will I get a form from you tonight? I mean, Walter used to fill out a form authorizing the newspaper to publish the advertisement.
We should have those in the file cabinet.
Okay,
yeah. We'll
so if
do
I can get one of those,
Yeah.
we'll get that rolling and send out the list
And
to the abutters.
then- Right, you'll get a up-to-date certified abutters list and
Yeah.
mail out return receipts and certified mail to all the abutters.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's either date in February, well, what's today? Today's January 6th, so what's the first Tuesday in February?
Second,
Maybe the 2nd, because
Right.
it has to be advertised for
Right.
21 days, so
Yeah.
let's go to the 2nd.
I think, okay, so you want to go the 17th, is that what you're saying?
yeah.
Yeah, if I
17th?
get that form tonight, we can take care of all the paperwork to get it in the paper.
All right.
What did you say, Jim? It's 7 days before and 14 days before that they advertise it?
Well, it's 7 days between them.
Okay,
So if you
Yeah.
did it on 1/6, the next one appears 7.
but the abutters notice has to go out 21 days in advance, I think.
Yeah, we'll have
Maybe I'm
everything
wrong, maybe it's
written.
only 14, but we'll stick with, what was it, February 17th? For your date?
Or what's the next one, the 28th?
Well,
No, we'd have a
What-
meeting.
yeah, we
have the
did
10th
the
and the
20th of
24th.
January, but,
Yeah.
so February meeting dates, you want to do the 3rd and the 17th? I believe that's
Is that last year's calendar?
No, it is the 15th, believe it or not, I know.
I've been doing that for the
Yeah,
last week.
3rd and 17th of February. Is that okay with the rest of the board?
Or we can do 10th and 24th. I don't care.
Those are Tuesdays in February,
those are
10th and
Tuesdays.
24th?
Yeah.
Whichever
see-
one you feel
see, that's where
confident
we
of
start
getting
the
it
parting
properly in the
again,
paper.
though.
What?
That's where we start the partying again. Because if we set it the 1st and 3rd, we ought to stick to the 1st and 3rd
Oh,
Tuesdays.
okay, yeah.
17th will be fine.
This is, they have to run their lives as well as we do ours, and I mean, sometimes
So we're
it's
gonna
better to
start.
get on a calendar.
All right, so we're gonna start doing the 1st and the 3rd
Third.
Tuesdays of the
Yeah.
month, all right.
So it'd be the 3rd and the 17th of February.
Okay, so I guess, so, you have to give you a check for the fees. Is there any relief to the $5,000 fee? Can you consider that, or?
I think we should answer something specific. We'd ask if we could cut it in half, 50%.
You already did work there, though. You did do site work there. Am I right?
Right,
Okay,
I think we're gonna stick
We'll-
with what they said.
we'll drop that. So,
10,500.
these checks go to the town of Groveland? Can
Yes.
it be all one check, or do you want a separate check for the,
Separate checks. I have to deposit in engineering account, and then
okay, so you
the
need,
fees, 2 of them can be the.
so the
one-
fee should be, the check for the fee should be 5,500,
Right.
and then the other one should be,
Engineering fees, but made
that-
out to the town of.
all of them made out to the town, okay.
5,500 and 5,000.
Yeah, 2 separate checks.
All right, so tonight, do you have a little PowerPoint or anything to?
Not unless you want me to go over it, but it's not a hearing, and you only have 3 members. So that, we're gonna have to make sure the hearings are nights that Mr. Sorensen can be here, because
Exactly.
the special permit requires 4 votes.
Right, where Andrea's a butter, she can't.
And you don't have an
participate.
alternate, right?
Yeah.
If you want me to, I can go over it quickly. It's up to you.
Yeah, why don't
Where
you?
you just hit alternate, how many, last time you remembered, how many can the planning board have? I remember back in the late 60s, we had 2.
Yeah, I thought it was changed to 1. It's,
One.
I believe, is a joint appointment by the,
Both, yes.
this goes back to the
yes.
90s, so,
Yeah. All right,
of
I'll
the
check-
Board of
I'll check
Selectmen.
on that then.
in the
All right.
planning board.
Yeah. Okay,
And that alternate can only sit on special permits.
right.
So I guess we'll have to be good to you guys. We need all 4 of you.
Yeah, for a majority vote.
I don't have a problem changing dates if we have to, come back another week and we'll do it, that's all.
Yeah, well, we could advertise it for the 17th if Mr. Sorensen is tied up flying, or we can just, you can open the hearing and continue it, I guess,
Yeah.
right? But we will be in that situation that,
And that
All
could
4
possibly
members
happen,
have to
'cause
be-
he doesn't know his flight
Right.
schedule yet either.
and when are you out of, you're out of town early March?
Yes, so 28th,
So-
sometime in March.
I'll get the dates that Mr. Harper isn't around, and if we have to continue it, we'll,
So that one's for fees. What's the other one for?
the other one's,
Aqua-
no, it's the review,
Engineering board?
yeah, the review engineering fee. Did you write down the check numbers?
No, I just.
How come they're so different?
How soon will the new plan be at the town clerk's office?
It'll be,
Next week.
we should have it the end of this week, so it'll be next week.
Okay, so the
It'll be-
public knows and,
Right. It's not a significant change, it's just,
right.
it's gonna show what was done under the, emergency orders from the Conservation Commission and a couple of other little things. I think we left the floodplain line off of that plan. So that'll show also.
Now, will you have an extra one, Mrs. LaFrance, you're lead person, right?
Yes.
Would you like a set of plans for your personal self?
Right, for all the abutters.
Wait a second, you want a plan for all the abutters?
Today, they couldn't be here.
No, we can get you one plan, and then the other plans will be at the town clerk.
Yeah, I also submitted 11 by 17 plan to the town clerk so she can, because she can't copy this in the town hall.
Right.
I will make some 11 by 17s and give them to her.
Okay. All right,
Okay, so all I need from you in the next day or two, or tonight if you can, is the authorization to put the ad in the paper.
yeah, we'll go in there shortly.
Okay.
Just hang loose, and we might as well wait for the new set of plans that are gonna be submitted, and then start it with a hearing for a PowerPoint.
Yeah. Okay,
All right,
thank you.
Okay.
and we need to get it time-stamped as soon as I deposit these checks and stuff, so. when-
Okay, well,
Give me a,
I'll put a cover letter with the new plan, because I know Walter was concerned that we submitted without the checks.
yeah,
Put a cover letter with the new plan. If you let me know when the checks are deposited, I'll bring that to the town clerk, she can stamp it, and that's the start date,
yeah, okay.
as far as,
Give me a call when you're ready, and I'll come down to the town clerk, too.
okay. I'll wait for that advertisement, and then,
Yep, okay,
thank you.
thank you. So the 17th, ladies and gentlemen, that's when the hearing is gonna be posted,
February,
February.
right,
7:30?
7.
No, 7:45.
7:45.
Closer to 8, every time.
Right, so, next thing is about the chairmanship.
Well, the Board of Selectmen had suggested at a meeting I had attended that, we rotate our chairman every year like they do. Like, they'd like to see all the boards doing that. And quite frankly, I think it's time to do that. This has been a hectic year, I can tell you, for me. Just too many things kept coming up the entire year, and what I'm seeing is a need to control a lot of things that are going on. I need to get others involved in a few things just to help out. And my suggestion is that the board take up the vote for a new chairman. I hate to do it with only 3 of us here, but, quite frankly, things that have been going on are just getting too much, and we need direction right now.
Right, but we're not voting tonight, we're gonna wait until the whole board's here, but it's just to see if we agree that we change it yearly.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
Okay? Okay, I'm just gonna put down 3 agreed. All right, another thing that's popped up is we've been
No, I gotta get the paperwork.
gotten stuff from Mitch Croner. He's concerned about the accessory in-law apartments. So I'll just pass those down. The unfortunate problem is right now that the new zoning bylaw is with town council. it went there sometime, I believe, in October. And it went there with comments we received from the Board of Appeals about certain parts of the bylaw that were causing problems for them. And in addition to all of the changes that had been made by the previous law firm that had worked on the bylaw, and some of the stuff that was left open before the last discussion with that legal firm was completed by ourselves. So at this point, the letter from Attorney Croner has to be taken under advisement. That is, we're not going to do anything with it until we hear back or have a meeting with town council. I'll just get that out of the way.
Right.
Okay. Let me just get that
That's
down.
correct.
Okay, just bear with me a minute. Which one was that one? 9.
That's why it would be great to have a secretary here checking.
It's, well, we're gonna talk about that too. The next thing is the budget, which,
Before you start that,
yeah,
Joe, Mr. Zamora, could you take a copy of this? This is what I had mentioned before, that I'd like Copeland and Page to go over, to see if they agree that the 106 abandonment coincides, and they agree with it.
What I'll do is I'll leave this in Denise,
Yeah.
Finance Director's mailbox, so she can date stamp it tomorrow.
Right, because it's a direction that we need to find out by the town's.
Yeah, I'll put it there, she'll date stamp it,
Yeah.
process it through the.
Okay,
through the,
good.
through the,
But it's crucial to our decision.
Okay, very good. I'll leave it in the box tonight.
Thank you.
our budget for this year is $3,000. This is Amy's current bill, I think you got this one.
I just got that this
Yeah,
afternoon.
675, so we ought to approve that.
And 300 will be taken off that 23 that I submitted a bill a week ago.
Okay,
So you're talking 900 and $1,000 take off that 23. And that will be the
1,000.
balance after that's paid.
okay, so we got 1,300 left. That'll probably, at least half of that will be eaten up by her doing additional minutes through 4/15. At this point, I have to go to the town clerk to find out, okay, what the next situation is with her. When I give her all those minutes we approved tonight, she has evidently some hearing notices that, you know, I don't think we had a meeting. So I don't know why those were held. It might have been a site walk. You know, I'll have to get the dates and see whether they were in that year and all. But,
When was it, Jim? This year, or?
no, they're go all the way, I'm only going back to 10. I hate to say it. I'd like to scan in what we get for 2010 to the present, because then it'll be online, and, you know, we can grab it anytime we want, we need it. It's getting kind of ridiculous. You put stuff in books, they ended in 2010. And, you know, scratching for stuff, whether it was finding the tape or then having to get the video disc, which Nancy helped me a tremendous amount with, or looking through notes I had, and they only went back through, I believe, 2012. And, you know, I know I had older stuff, but I can't find it anywhere at this point. So, you know, at some point, we're gonna have to sit down with the clerk or simply tell the clerk, blank. That's all we can do at that point. But this has been a project and a half, and, you know, going forward, I'd like Amy to do a lot more for us. I'd like to be able to email her with agenda items, and for her to create the agenda and get it to the town clerk, get it posted.
Yeah.
I'd like to get her to do some work inside that room to clean it up. I mean, I look at that table in there and it's like 80% full of stuff. Chairs that got stuff on them, boxes are sitting there with piles of stuff in them. You know, we need to get to the bottom of some of this stuff, and, you know, I'm willing to come down with her and try to, you know, put my hand in it too, but I'd like to have her set our meeting up, you know, all our mail, she pulls it in, it's sitting there for us in a kind of a nice, neat arrangement. Things of that nature, you know, we use her a little bit more. I just don't know if $3,000 is enough, I don't know.
Why don't we go to what the zoning board does, and they end up yearly at town meeting appropriating, what was it, 5,000 or up for the secretary to be at the meetings and to do these other functions so that everything's filed properly and everything.
We'll go with the new, we'll have to put in a new budget. Who's doing the budget for this year?
It's in there.
All right.
And,
But the last notification from the finance director, Denise, was that you need to put it in writing of what you want in advance to her to justify it before you even go to the finance committee, so she's gonna, the selectmen and her are gonna pick and choose which ones are gonna funnel through, so that needs to be written up. If you could copycat the zoning secretary, you know, what they've got written in the article to appropriate the money every year. It's not as if we don't produce general funds money. For quite a few years, we were producing over $250,000 a year that went into general funds.
yeah, I understand what you say at this point. I don't know how far I get with that, but I'll bring it up. The only other thing I do is simply request $3,000 again. And I think we got enough backup with the bills, you know, that we're seeing, and what I think we can project for the rest of the year will reach that.
Well, you've got to remember, marijuana advertising.
I know, advertising's coming in.
Yeah. Do you think we should go, and if you wanted to do some work, maybe we should ask for 5?
I think so.
I'll try. There is something, what was it, 4 people retired, and they got a $200,000 problem right now, so who knows, they might be digging into existing budgets if they don't think it's gonna get spent. But I don't know what else we uncover, and then we gotta go back and we gotta do some more. You know, I just don't know at this point. I don't mind leaving money on the table at the end of the year that we don't spend. I don't mind doing that. I mean, that's fair. I mean, that's what the taxpayer should get, that money back, you know, to reduce their taxes. But, you know, setting a budget for the future, I mean, I'll have to come up with some scenarios of what I think, that's all, and then brush it by. But yeah, I mean, if we got it up to 5,000, I mean, see what they will to give us, that's all. But I'll try to come up with numbers that equal 5,000, that's all. Okay, Okay.
Good?
All right, I don't know what else we had, board new chair, okay, budget. It's probably something else, but, I mean, this is number 10 tonight.
All right, let's adjourn.
The one thing, Larry's here, and it ticked Joe's interest at the last, what was it, ZBA, or, joint meeting between,
17th,
You know,
Saturday at 9 o'clock, joint meeting.
what was it, that thing the guy had down in Georgetown? You had 4 of them,
Planning.
We have a town planner.
town planner,
Yeah.
because Joe was thinking about that and
Oh, I
hooking it
see.
in
Said it-
with
that is
enforcement, code enforcement,
Yeah.
and
The
then
town planner doesn't do code enforcement,
it doesn't.
but he's sort of a clearinghouse. People go see him and he sends them to the right place.
Jim, we need to close the meeting and then talk about it.
Okay, all right. All right, why don't we adjourn the meeting at this point? Have nothing else to talk about,
Okay.
okay?
Motion to adjourn at
Second.
9:40.
Okay,
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
okay. Aye.